Welcome back to the World College Poker YouTube channel. I'm delighted to be joined by a person who's everything. He is a competitive poker player. He is a teacher, a father, all of those things, and even could be considered a legend of the game by his friend Shannon Shore. Jonathan Little. Jonathan, how are you?
Hello, I'm great to be here. Thanks for having me. Let's get to it.
Yeah, let's get to it. I mean, I feel like your story of going from competing at a young age to going into college and studying engineering and psychology to then making the switch out of college to commit your life and what you wanted to do to poker is really relevant. So tell us and maybe tell some of the college players that might be playing in our main event this summer how that happened and how you decided to commit to poker full time.
Well, so long story short, I was going to college studying psychology,
Mm,
and that got to be, I'm sorry, I was going for engineering initially, but that got to be a
yeah,
little bit too tough when I was playing poker all the time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I switched to psychology. And then we had to take summer school classes to keep I had an academic scholarship. You had to take summer school classes to
yeah.
keep teachers employed, I suppose. And I went in and they gave us a pop quiz and I got a zero. So then I realized maybe I should just be doing this poker thing instead of doing this college thing.
Yeah,
But that's not good for all of you because you all need to stay in college to play the tournament. So stay in college till after the tournament. Then once you win, reevaluate.
that's right. Good
But what it
advice.
amounts to is, look, I was in a fortunate spot as a young person in college where I was working like minimum wage type job at an airport that had a lot of free time available. I would purposefully work the graveyard shift and then I'd go to college, right? So I would essentially sleep during half of the day, work at nighttime, and go to school during the rest of the day. And there are not a lot of airplanes coming into the airport where I used to work at nighttime. So that gave me a lot of free time to do whatever I wanted. And what I wanted to do was study poker and get good at it. So I bought every poker book on the market. Back then, there were no training sites. This was back in 2003, 2004 or so. And so I read every book and then eventually deposited a small amount of money online. And well, here we are now, many years later.
I believe it was what $50 at a 25-50 cent limit table and ran that up to what over $300,000. Was that the is that the right or maybe 50,000? What was the amount there?
That is correct. I mean, so depends on when you want to start and stop, I suppose.
Right,
But I
yeah.
deposited $50 into an online poker site in 2003 and played Limit Hold'em. That was the main game that was available back then. So I just started, with 100 big bets, which is not that big of a bankroll, but it's a fine bankroll for Limit Hold'em. And I just had a decent edge on everyone right off the bat because nobody knew what they were doing back in 2003. And I had read one poker book. I'd read one book. They had all read none. So that gave me a good edge. But I played Limit Hold'em until I got to roughly the highest stakes limit game. And I was struggling to beat the absolute highest stakes limit game back in the day, which was about 30-60 Limit Hold'em, which isn't even all that big of a game, but it was the biggest game they had back then because online poker was kind of new. And then I discovered sit and goes, which are essentially 9-person tournaments. And it turns out they are a relatively mathematical game. And all you have to do is figure out how to play the very common spots well. And I learned how to play short stack poker pretty well with payout implications because they paid 3 people out of the 9 in the tournament, or 3 out of 10, whatever it was, depending on the site. And that went pretty well. So by the time I was 21, I had about $350,000 in my bankroll. And I never really cashed out any of the money. I think a lot of people think that the goal is to get money to go partying or money to buy new clothes or money to pay bills. But I kept my $10 an hour job the entire time I was doing this for the most part. I probably had, I don't know, 150 or $200,000 before I ever quit my job. And that's because I wasn't really playing poker to make money. I was playing poker because I enjoyed playing poker. And it just so happened that I was running up a bankroll in the process. I would not recommend you keep all your money on an online
Yeah,
site. You should certainly cash some of that.
probably not. Yeah.
No, but none of us knew any better back in the day. And I mean, I got lucky to never get burned by being on any shady site. I was always playing on like Poker Stars or Party Poker, the big legitimate sites. And that worked out pretty well. So by the time I was 21, I had about 350K. Then I transitioned to playing live poker tournaments because that's where you could play bigger games. And, I was 21, figured I'd go play in the casino a bit.
Yeah. So through all of that, first off, I mean, what is think me knowing what I know and us having a lot more experience after Black Friday, thinking of having that much money in a site would just make me so nervous. So that anecdote was so interesting to me. But I think also too a question I had in that was, poker is such a game. I think when people get into it, it is a game that's very easy to see, I guess, winners and losers. It is who has more money and who is getting money and who's not. And so, but you didn't really go into the game. Your motivation to keep playing was not for the money. So how did you define success in that time, and how do you define success even now?
So it's tough to clearly define success or failure in many forms of poker that are very high variance, like multi-table tournaments. I mean, for example, now, if you play a full Sunday online, you'll probably lose 3 out of 4 times if you're really good at poker. Even if you play a lot of games, that's just because there is a lot of variance. And that's fine. You have to accept that. Back then, I was playing the sit and goes, though, and I did not have, I think I would have like 1 or 2 losing months per year. And I was playing like a lot. Like I was playing 3,000 to 5,000 games per month, which is pretty good volume. But even then, you still have losing months. So I knew what I was signing up for. I could do a little bit of math and figure that out. And now there are like variance calculators online. You can just search poker variance calculator. It'll come right up and you can see what you should expect given your win rate. And you have to be realistic about your win rate. I would always assume that I was worse than my results said I was because I realized I could just be running hot, right? And it would be bad to develop a life plan or a plan for finances if you are actually just being lucky, because you should probably plan for slightly worse than an average run just in case. But like what motivated me, I like seeing the score go up, right? I like seeing the bankroll increase.
Yeah.
And today, I don't know what really motivates me. I just enjoy playing some cards, It's fun to go play cards with people I enjoy playing with. And that's usually what I do when I get to go play big buy-in tournaments. Like I'm going to play the US Poker Open in Las Vegas in 2 or 3 days. And it's going to be fun. I'm going to see a lot of people I haven't seen in quite a while due to COVID. We'll play some high-stakes poker, and I'll either win or I'll lose. And either way, I won't worry about the results so much because I realize I'm going to go play like 10 tournaments, Yeah. There's a lot of variance in 10 tournaments. I realize I'm going to go out there and probably get 1 or 2 cashes. Maybe a win, maybe no wins. I don't know. But I think I'm playing with an edge, and that's it, right? So I'm mainly concerned just ensuring I put myself in scenarios where I expect to make some amount of money. And then I want to make good decisions. I don't want to go out there and just make blunders left and right. And I know I'm not going to because I've already studied a ton away from the table. I think at the end of the day, as long as you prepare to the best of your ability and you don't like butcher yourself while you're out there, like you don't go partying the day before you're going to go play a big tournament or whatever, common sense stuff, really. If you don't do that, then you're essentially just taking the strategy that you've learned away from the table and then implementing it at the table. And I think I've studied about as much as most people in those games, maybe a little bit more than some, maybe a little bit less than some, but I'm expecting to go out there and have at least a reasonable shot to do well, right? I don't know what my return on investment is going to be. It could be -5%. It could be like plus 20%. I don't know, somewhere in there, but that sounds like a fine gamble to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I enjoy playing cards.
I do too. I mean, that's a simple. You didn't even have to go any further. Simple, just playing cards and having fun. And I know that part of your sort of foray while you were playing was finding community, and you found Shannon Shore, your future best man, I believe. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I always find to be just the whole reason why I do it too. We have a club at college, and that was the whole reason. It was never about winning or anything like that. It's about the community that people get to have. So how can college students find community in the game of poker?
Well, if you have a poker club at your school, it makes it easy because you just go there and make friends, right? So I ended up meeting Shannon because we were both playing the high stakes sit and go tournaments together. And we would just like randomly chat in the chat box and then chat on America Online Instant Messenger about poker strategy, right? He was playing a ton. I was playing a ton. It was clear he was good at poker. I guess he thought it was clear I was good at poker. And we started chatting. And then I think he won a trip to Austria on Party Poker. They were having some Party Poker tournament there. And I figured I might as well tag along. So that was my first poker trip. I think I was 21 by then. Maybe I was slightly younger. I don't really remember. But it was one of my first trips, and it was a lot of fun. So, whenever you start doing something that is very unique or out of that's not normal for you, like, I was basically living in Florida, not really going anywhere, to going to Austria, that's an abnormal experience, right? And whenever you go do those things with people, you inevitably bond to them and you make friends. And Shannon's very good at talking to people. He's much more outgoing than I am in general, at least than I was back then for sure. And he talked to everyone. So we ended up making a bunch of friends through Shannon. And it's kind of a joke. Like anytime Shannon wants to talk to someone, he's like, oh, let's just go talk to him. And that's all you really have to do. Go talk to people, be nice, try to add value where you can. And if you help people out and they like being around you, then you'll make friends. So be nice is what it amounts to. Be nice, be a little bit outgoing. Don't be afraid of rejection or looking dumb or whatever. And good things will happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say that being nice part and just branching out, especially now, luckily, knock on wood, we'll all hopefully have more of a chance to do that since COVID seems to be skirting away, and we get to have those experiences again that college students and anybody will have the ability to share those moments with each other. Back to the being nice point, I was going to say that everybody seems to call you the hardest working poker player in the industry. Was that what it took to get where you are right now, or am I missing something? Am I missing something?
I mean, I don't necessarily view what I do as work to begin with. I just wake up and kind of do whatever I want. And it turns out the things that I've generally wanted to do have led to getting good at games. I played a lot of games throughout my life, and I enjoy getting good at the games. And it's not really like the idea that I want to show how good I am or beat my opponents or anything like that. It's just learn to be the best I can at this game. And you have to be reasonable about it, right? Like if you're going to college, hate to break it to you, you're not going to be the best player in the world in a year. You're just not. And that's okay. Today, me devoting all the time I devote to poker, I realize I'm not going to be the literal best poker player in the world. Like when I go to Vegas, there's a chance the games are tough and I have almost no edge, in which case I might not even play, right? Because I realize I'm going to there to make money. And if it is just actually me and 10 of the best poker players in the world, okay, I'm the fish. Fine, I accept this. But if it's me and a whole bunch of players, I'm going to have an edge. And it's important to be able to assess your skill level. And if you are not devoting all of your life to getting good at something, you're probably not going to be the best in the world at it. And that's okay. So you have to make sure in poker and in most things, you find a way to be better than the opposition, most competitive things at least. And if you can do that, you'll be good to go. Unfortunately, if you're in college, most of your college poker playing friends are not going to be all that good at poker because they're busy devoting their life to lots of other things. And if you devote even just a little bit more time than they do, you're going to have a decent edge on them. But look, I like sitting down. I like grinding. Like a long time ago, when I was playing sit and goes. When I was in college, I would be playing poker, 50 hours a week or something, on top of going to school, on top of having a job. And it never felt like work. It was fun. Just like playing a video game all day. So, some people would sit and play video games all day. I would sit and play poker all day and treat it effectively like a video game where I was trying to make my score/bankroll be as big as it could possibly be.
And that has driven you to all of the trophies and accolades behind you that I always tend to see every time I watch a video. Yep. I was going to say, yeah, there's a lot of them. That's for sure. I mean, that's crazy. And, I think the fun part about what we're going to do here in the summer with the main event with World College Poker is giving a platform for college students to have that competition, to fight for something, to win trips to crazy places, and to have those abnormal experiences that you were talking about. When you were in college and something like this main event came along, would you have competed in it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, why not? It seems like a great opportunity. It's free, right? Is it free?
Oh, yeah, it's free.
I mean, why would you not do it if it was free?
Exactly.
There aren't even any bankroll considerations. Some things are just like obvious no-brainers. And if they're going to give you an opportunity to compete for great prizes, then why wouldn't you? It's not like this is even something that takes an immense amount of time. If it was something that you had to spend 100 hours doing or something, then maybe not. But if it literally is show up, try to win some stuff, you might as well show up and try to win some stuff. There are a lot of things in life where the downside is basically none and the upside is something. It's a free roll, essentially, right? And if you can put yourself in a lot of free rolls over and over again, especially if the free rolls are kind of valuable, then you're just going to print a bunch of equity.
Absolutely, and it's a free roll to the max with all the different stuff. You've been so kind as to give away premium memberships, and you also gave away some time to our first winner of the tournament, Ben from Ohio State. Talk to us about the time that you had with him and what you noticed out of his play.
Well, so this is going to sound bad. I teach a lot of private students. And this was something like 6 months ago, so yes. I don't remember it all that well. So but I remember him being a good, competent poker player, and it makes sense. If you're going to show up and you're going to beat a lot of people, you're probably going to be a good, competent poker player. I mean, I'm sure he worked on a few things, but I coach a lot of private students, and there are varying skill levels. And anyway, I don't remember is what it amounts to. My
That's
memory
okay.
is really, really bad. I think a lot of people think you have to have a great memory to play poker, but I can't remember much of anything besides things I've done a ton. And if we interact one time, I'm gonna have a tough time remembering it 6 months later. Sorry, nothing against Ben or you or anybody else.
No,
It's
that's okay.
I think it's good though, in to some extent, because I mean, I'll talk to my wife about this. Like, I'll have a terrible day at the poker table sometimes, as inevitably happens, and I'll just wake up the next day ready to hop right back in there because that was yesterday. I don't really remember it. The emotions, everything just kind of vanishes in the middle of the night. I wake up, I'm good to go, and I'll just continue doing my best.
Hey, no, that's completely fair.
There's a lot of value not dwelling on the past, right? Because sometimes the past is going to be good to you, sometimes it's going to be bad. I mean, I have some people who I talk to who like regularly reminisce about some great thing that happened to them 10 years ago, and they're not so focused on continuing to do well in the future, right? And then other people, the exact opposite. They complain and moan about their bad luck recently. It's like, who cares? All you can do is show up and do your best. Prepare ahead of time, show up, put yourself in good scenarios, and in a game with variance, sometimes it's going to work out, sometimes it's not. It's like if you're trying to get a job out of
Yeah.
college, right? You go to get a job, you may have this dream job you interview for, and you may not get it. And that's okay, because there's probably one or two spots to fill, and they're going to interview 100 people. It's hard to win a 1 out of 100 person game ever, right? So you have to be realistic, and perhaps I'm not going to say like lower your standards, but you have to give yourself a lot of opportunities. So get in there, give yourself a lot of opportunities at things that you want to do, and it'll probably work out if you just keep going in there and giving it a good shot. But if you don't get the first job or two, and you're kind of like getting down and depressed and sad, people are going to read that and they're going to go, this person's a sad, depressed person. I don't want to work with a sad, depressed person. And, that may not work out so well. So do your best to, I don't know, be happy with your situation and be happy with the opportunities that you have in front of you.
No, I think that sort of mindset, from what I've learned from poker, has somehow made some stressors a lot easier to handle. When for example, that same example about job interviews, sometimes people really get personally upset when they don't get that job call saying that you got it or you got another interview. But in reality, you actually never know sometimes what little thing might have contributed to you being there. Maybe it wasn't even your fault. Could have been bad timing. They could have maybe lost your resume or something like that and just blipped out of their mind. You really never know. But all you can do is keep trying
Yeah.
and keep going back and back and back and break through.
Well, so it's kind of interesting for me because I am an American poker player, and online poker sites will regularly sponsor players, but very often they don't sponsor American players so much because, the American online poker market is not especially great. And if it is, it's on some usually shady site, and I don't want to work with a shady site. So I realized a long time ago that if I wanted to have any sort of, I guess, footprint in the business world of poker, I kind of needed to make my own, call it sponsorship, right? And that led to me making my training site, PokerCoaching.com, and it's turned out to be a great thing. And that was essentially because I could not get a deal as a player. A site would not pay me to represent them just because I'm an American poker player. It is what it is, right? And I recognize that it's just not the right time for that. Maybe there will be a time for that if online poker becomes very legal in America at some point, but that's not the world I've been living in for the last 6 or 8 years. So I had to make my own way if I wanted to be able to make money from home, right? I have a wife and 2 kids, and I want to be able to be home with my kids a decent amount of time. They're 2 and 4 years old. Seems like a good time to be home with them. And that's worked out pretty well. Everyone get a free fundamentals course, by the way. Check it out, pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. It'll teach you how to play poker reasonably well in about 2.5 hours. It's set up like a class, lots of short videos, quizzes afterwards to make sure that you're not a fish. Make sure you study it before the tournament.
That's right. I was going to say the amount of value you talked about bringing value. The amount of value that comes from PokerCoaching.com is immense. I mean, you give away so many things for free, and then you also add on top of it, if you want even more than that, hand reviews, webinars, one-on-one, homework, all those sorts of things at PokerCoaching.com. And on that point, what has surprised you about your foray into poker education? Because like you said, you were hoping, maybe I get sponsored, but instead you decided to get into poker education, and it's turned out incredibly well for you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of becoming a sponsored player, I've always been I guess, not desperate to get a deal. There are plenty of sites out there that would give me a deal, but not a deal I want.
Right.
Because we're trying to either do really well or not at all. Whenever I work with any company, I want to either be like 100% in to where it's like really worth the effort, or I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's just how I operate. I either like do it really well or I don't do it. And that's okay. For me at least, right? Maybe that's not great for some people, but I don't mind sitting down and doing a lot of work. And to make your own training site does take a lot of work, right? I don't think what I do is for everyone. But I mean, I realized a long time ago, like, what are my actual skills? It is playing poker and talking to people about poker. So I guess I should talk to people about poker. So I just started doing that. I mean, I wrote all these books here behind me. And the first book came about because I was making videos for a poker training site. And someone there happened to notice, who owned a publishing company, and came to me when they wanted a book on poker tournaments. And I already had a bunch of articles I had written for private students. Anytime someone would ask me a question, instead of re-explaining a concept, again, I would just write an article, which, be 1 page to 10 pages long, whatever. Then they can send me an email asking the question. I can send them back this article. It's like, oh my God, this guy just wrote me a 10-page article. That's amazing. Even though, it's the same article I wrote for somebody else about this. It's just the same answer, right? So like, just that alone was providing immense value to whoever sent me an email about anything. And I already had that ready. I turned that into a book, and then that got in front of a bunch more people. And, it's just like adding value, right? And you try to figure out things better than most people, and everyone knows something well. Everybody has a hobby to some extent. So find people who value that skill and use that skill to help them out. And you never know where it's going to lead.
Absolutely. I think you've brought immense value to thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people along the way, with your YouTube channel growing and growing. And your education, I think, is really nice because it's tailored to all kinds of skill levels. I mean, I can send somebody that is pretty new from one of my friends to your site and get started with the very basics of how is poker played, and then how do you actually begin to play it on a modicum of a good level of what hands do you not play. And then you can go deep and say, oh, you're having problem with your 3-betting range from early, from middle position, late position. And you have that in there. You have those really deep concepts. I guess for our beginners in the game, because there will be a lot of them, I think, in our tournament here in the summer, what is the biggest misconception that people have about starting the game of poker?
There's a lot of them. I think a lot of people are only concerned with their own individual hand. Like, what do I do with my exact cards? Whereas in reality, you want to ask, what would I do with the range of hands I would play in this scenario? And same thing for your opponent. You don't necessarily want to try to figure out exactly what they have, because unless they're really bad, which maybe they are, but if they're not really bad, they're going to play some good hands and some bluffs in the same manner. And you should realize that, right? That said, I think a lot of people also get it in their heads that poker is either all about just making the best hand and getting called, or they think poker is all about bluffing and they just try to run everybody over. One of the two, depending on your opponent, right? So you have to figure out essentially what your opponent does wrong and what you can do about it. And this is why it's important to study fundamentally sound strategies, because if you know the game theory optimal fundamentally sound strategy, you can then figure out where your opponents are adjusting from that consciously or unconsciously, right? Like whatever they just naturally do wrong. And that will tell you how to go about adjusting to maximally take advantage of whatever they're doing wrong. Like, say you see someone raising a ton, I don't know, 70% of hands, you just know they're not only raising with the good hands, right? So don't fold quite so often to that player, right? So you learn how to adjust to take advantage of what they're doing incorrectly. But I mean, you got to realize, whenever you are a poker educator, people are going to come to you at all sorts of skill levels. And that's why we have content for very, very beginning players, like the fundamentals course we talked about earlier, to like super advanced players. That said, if you're going to run a poker training business, most people in the world are not the absolute best poker players in the world. Therefore, at least seems obvious to me, to not make content only for the absolute best poker players, because then you're not actually helping all that many people. Unless, of course, you're going to charge a lot of money for it. And, that's fine and good. I typically try to make everything reasonably priced, because I realize that a lot of people don't have a lot of money. Like when I started, $10 was a lot of money for me. So I do my best to try to put out a lot of free content, a lot of relatively cheap content, and try to help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. That barrier of entry, especially for college students that might be eating ramen, for 3 or 4 days out of the week, that free content that you provide is definitely lowering that barrier of entry into poker. There was this is a bit of a shift for a moment, but I always think of when I think of you, there's a particular image that comes to mind in the 2007 WPT Mirage Showdown. You go all in with ace deuce suited, and you end up hitting that deuce on the flop, and you are sitting there, sunglasses on, and you have two hands shuffling chips, just completely zoned in. And I just thought that was so cool, even at that time where you were still, relatively young in the game and just beginning your foray into live poker. When you look at that person, you in 2007, what do you see?
I probably had a pretty good mindset back then to not let the money impact me so much. So for those who have not seen it, essentially I got it all in with ace two against an ace with a bigger kicker. I don't know what it was, like a 6 or an 8 or something. Yeah. We're going to chop it most of the time anyway. Anyway, I made 2 twos and I won the tournament for $1 million. I won that little trophy back there. And I mean, a lot of people are like, oh my God, you won $1 million. That's fantastic. But in my mind, whenever I play any poker tournament, I'm going to win my equity in that tournament. So when I bought into that $10,000 tournament, I thought I'd win $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 somewhere in there on average. And that's it. I realized I'm going to lose a bunch of the time too. And I guess I just don't care about the money all that much. It sounds bad, but like if you dump $1 million in my bank account, yeah, it's nice, but like it's not really going to change anything beyond I'm going to play slightly bigger buy-ins. But I was already playing pretty big buy-ins back then. $10,000 was about as big as they come, so I can't really play any higher. And I don't spend any of my money because I was a young kid. I spent almost no money. I did buy a condominium for $150,000. That was my big splurge. And so it's like, if that's my big spew, I mean, it is what it is. It's like nothing, right? So it's kind of a weird mindset. It's probably not the ideal mindset. I definitely do not celebrate wins or bemoan losses like most people. And I think that's probably ideal. I think a lot of people get into poker and most gambling games because they want to feel excited. Whereas I want to feel like nothing when I'm playing poker. I just want to sit there and make good decisions. And I realize sitting there when I'm playing that hand, I can still lose this hand. Don't get super excited. And like, even if I win, who cares? I get a bunch of money. I'm going to go play another tournament tomorrow. It's not going to make a difference. So at that point in life, it wasn't like I was going from having no money to $1 million. It's like I'm going from having 300K to 1.3 million or something. Like it's nice. It's a big change, but it wasn't like incredibly life defining. And like Mike Sexton said, smile, son, you just won $1 million.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, sure. Sure, thanks. Good. Thanks. I mean, yeah. I probably should have savored it more. If you gave me $1 million today, I'd probably be pretty happy about it. I don't know. I probably had some sort of mental disease back then that made me not care at all. I was probably incredibly desensitized to money because I was swinging a decent amount. Now, when I have 2 wives and a kid and an apartment in Manhattan, it'd be good to have $1 million to use. Yeah. But, I don't know. It's a weird spot. Imagine you're playing a tournament. And let's say you have $1,000 and you win a tournament for $1,000. It's like, cool, good. And it was kind of like that, where like it's a nice thing, but it's not like, oh my God, I should jump up and down and celebrate. I never really understood the idea of celebrating when you get lucky. And I realized that, sure, I had some edge in this tournament, but I got lucky to drastically over-realize it, right? Like when you win a slot machine, should you be congratulated for winning a slot machine?
Probably not.
You didn't do anything. I mean, you showed up. But shouldn't you be congratulated for showing up and playing to begin with, right? Like imagine you get a free roll for the slot machine. Should you be happy if you spike on it and get a bunch of money? I mean, like, yeah, I guess, but you didn't do anything special, right? I should have been celebrated for my work ahead of time to have a decent edge in the tournament and for showing up and playing at least decent poker for a few days, right? I don't know. Yeah. Most people will not relate to this, I'm sure.
Some might still celebrate if they win any of the prizes we have or even win a tournament. But
there's nothing wrong with celebrating. Yeah. A lot of people, I think a lot of people experience a wider range of happiness and sadness than me. I don't get too sad and I don't get too happy, and that may not be ideal for life enjoyment. Maybe good for being good at poker, though. I'm not sure.
I'd say, hey, it depends. It depends. I think you've done pretty well for yourself either way, no matter what. And I think that's the fun thing too is that this game is very much a choose your own adventure. There is no standard of we can have the GPI rankings, who's the WSOP player of the year, but success and happiness is what you make of it, really.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's important to realize that a lot of people put in lots of volume, and that's good for them, right? They play a ton. Some people play just a little bit, and that's good for them, and it works out, right? It's like if you look at any poker ranking, a lot of them are based on volume, right? But that doesn't necessarily say how much you're up or down. It doesn't say how much time you've actually invested. Like imagine you only play, I don't know, I don't know, let's say 10 hours per week, but you make the same amount of money as someone who plays 40 hours per week. You're probably a lot better than poker. Yet if you look at a ranking system, it'll say you're probably way worse. Sometimes, depending on how they set up the ranking system, right? But also, maybe the person with 40 hours a week who's playing 40 hours a week would go nuts if they didn't play 40 hours a week. So maybe they need to be playing 40 hours a week in order to be a good functioning human. Whereas maybe the person playing 10 hours a week, if they played 40 hours a week, they'd go nuts. So you got to find what works for you. But I've always been the person who's like capable of sitting down and grinding. Like for 2 or 3 years, I just sat at Bellagio playing 5, 10, and 10, 20 no limit every day when I wasn't playing a big tournament for like 12 hours a day. I had no problem with it. I liked it. Felt like I was being productive. I was making a bunch of money, and that was good. And I mean, now I'm in a very different part of my life where I'm taking care of my kids for, during the weekdays a lot of the time and running the training business and only playing poker on Sundays. So people go through different stages of their life, and you need to figure out what works for you in your current situation and make the best of whatever opportunities you have in front of you.
Absolutely. Well said across the board. If going back to your poker training and maybe how you got to it, how did you learn to learn? I mean, how did you learn to be able to study at the level that you are and then get to a point where you're able to teach other people? Was there a key to it?
So when I was a kid, I would read chess books, learn how to play chess. And I was like 6 years old. My dad and I would play chess. And he got me this book called Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess, which was basically like a quiz book. And I would go through all the quizzes, try to get all those right. And I was pretty good at chess, but nothing special. And that taught me to study. And I eventually got to where I could beat my dad when I was 6 or 7 years old, right? Which is good. Probably because I was devoting a lot of time to chess and he was devoting none. It makes logical sense. So then I'd play chess online and study a bunch. And then I learned the game Magic the Gathering, and it was also a strategy game. I'd study that a ton. And it just always seemed logical to me. If you want to get good at something, you should study it. And I was very bad at poker initially. I was way too weak, way too passive, which I think is actually the case for a lot of chess players. Because very often in chess, you play kind of defensively until it's like deterministic you're going to win. Poker is a little bit different because in poker, sometimes you have to be a little bit more aggressive and sometimes you just randomly lose, which makes it a good game. Because if you know you're going to win, then it's actually not so fun for the opponent. It's important for your opponent to know they can win sometimes in order for them to continue playing with you, right? But I would always try to learn from other people because I realize I'm not the best at pretty much anything. And I want to try to learn from those who have come before me, who are already winning in the games I'd like to win at, or who could be if they felt inclined. And I studied from them, and I would always help out other people, right? People help me out, and I in turn help other people out. And that just seems like the right thing to do. If someone's going to be spending their time helping you out, help them out in whatever way you can. But also, if you can help out other people, you might as well. So that resulted in me posting on various poker forums, and eventually that kind of transformed into making training videos, and that transformed into making everything I have now, like YouTube channel, books, audiobooks, newspaper articles, whatever. I try to help people get good at poker so they can enjoy the game more. Because at the end of the day, if you go from losing to breaking even, you'll be thrilled. And if you go from breaking even to winning a little bit, you'll be thrilled. And you're going to just enjoy your experience a whole lot more. And if you can help people enjoy their experiences a whole lot more, why not?
Absolutely. I all across the board. So much good advice. I can't even eloquate it here. I'm with Jonathan Little, Alec Rome here for World College Poker. I was going to say, on your point, you've mentioned a couple times now that you're a father and love to showcase James and Thomas in your content on your Instagram. How do you balance your poker, your teaching, and your family life?
Well, they're just coming in, so they may make a lot of noise. I'm not sure.
That's okay.
It's actually kind of easy. What I do is, I'm going to talk about before COVID because I think that's where we're going to be getting back to. Is I would essentially travel to play poker something like 1 week per month on average, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And while I'm traveling, my wife will take care of the kids. It's very, very great. Make my life easy. It's important to have a partner who can make your life easy. Make sure you reciprocate, and don't be a jerk and do only what you want to do. Don't let them do things they want to do. So anyway, that's good. I travel 1 week per month. When I'm home, I'll usually play online poker Sunday afternoons. But then Saturday and Sunday morning, I'll just be with my wife and kids all day. And then on the weekdays, I'll wake up at about 6 a.m. and take care of the kids until about 9 a.m. We have a nanny that comes during the weekdays from 9 till 6. And from 9 until 6, I will sit in this office and work all day. Like most people go to the office and work all day. Most poker players don't really associate with this because they want to kind of goof off during the day and watch Netflix and chill. I want to sit in my office and do work. So I sit in the office from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m., 5 days a week. And then after 6 p.m., I hang out with the wife and kids again until it's time to go to bed. So my life is very compartmentalized where I have very clearly defined family time, very clearly defined work time, and very clearly defined poker time. And that makes it to where I don't slack off on any of those, right? It's not like, all right, I'm going to wake up early today to do my work. I just don't do it. Or I'm going to stay up late to do my work. I just don't do it. I know you better get the work done by 6 p.m. or it's not going to get done until tomorrow. And, kids know 9 a.m. time for daddy to get to work. And I think that's probably ideal for me, at least. I know some people have no schedule. Some people have a schedule where they just fill their time with whatever they can possibly fill it with. But you need to have direction in your life. You need to try to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. And right now I'm trying to raise my kids and get them out of the house. And I'm trying to make PokerCoaching.com be the best business it can. And I'm trying to get as good at poker as I reasonably can. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's just the way to go, as best as you can be, and especially in college where I feel like young people balance so many different things. You balance your classes, you balance your social life, you balance having to then study and prepare for those classes, and maybe you'll want to balance poker too in there some way. And really, I feel like it ends up being just a bit of a bit of just test, experiment, look at the results, try again until you find that perfect balance point.
Yeah, so I have a student. His name is Blas Zerjau. He turned $5 into 1.3 million recently on Party Poker. That was a good thing for him. Mm-hmm. And he has his life completely built out on a spreadsheet. He was going to college. He finished recently. And he had every day planned out perfectly. And he stuck to this regimen and it worked out great. I mean, back whenever I was a college student, I knew I had my work time right. I would try to schedule my work time at nighttime where I knew I could also double that for poker study time. So nighttime was work time, get paid a little bit of money, and also study poker. And then I had my time at college, which I was doing my best to learn, although I'm sure my mind was preoccupied with poker. But to be fair, to get really good at anything quickly, I think you have to devote a lot of time to it. If you look at a lot of the best poker players in the world, kind of in my scenario, people who are better than me, right? They had some period in their life where all they did was play poker. And to be fair, whenever I quit college, all I did was play poker for 2 years straight. And that's probably not ideal for any other aspect of your life. I did not have a significant other. I did not have any social life. I literally played poker or studied poker, something like 14 hours a day, every day for 2 years. And every other part of my life was lacking. I was in bad shape. I had no friends besides my online internet friends and a big bank account. So I realized I don't know if I consciously made this decision to sacrifice those things, but it just happened, right? And if I had to look at myself back then, I would tell my much younger self, hey, you probably need to have a little bit of a life outside of exactly sitting in front of your computer playing poker all day. But maybe I would not be here today as a good poker player if I gave away 2 extra hours per day or something. But, you want to have a little bit of balance. I think a little bit of balance is good. But if you are really trying to get good at anything, I do think you need to kind of take a deep dive into it where you really do devote a substantial amount of time to it. But luckily, I know whenever you're college, you may not feel like this, but you only go to college something like 6 or 8 hours a day, and you only sleep 6 or 8 hours a day. That means you have 8 hours per day to devote to whatever your passion is, assuming whatever you're going to college for is not your passion. So you have to make sure you don't squander those 6 to 8 hours per day you have that are free. So make sure you don't do that. It's very easy to squander the time. And look back and realize, hey, I guess I got a degree, but I don't really have anything else. Whereas you could get a degree and then have some other great skill, like you can learn a foreign language, or you can learn to play poker, or you can learn whatever you want to learn, right? And make sure you take advantage of the opportunities you have. And I feel like a broken record here. But when you are young, your biggest resource is that you have a lot of time to some extent. Again, I know it doesn't feel like you have time going to school, but you actually do. Hate to break it to you, it's only going to get more hectic because you're going to probably maybe you'll make a family, maybe you'll have kids. Once you have kids, you're done. You're not going to learn anything new probably, besides a bunch of kid stuff. But these really are the best years of your life, so make use of them. Wish I was young again.
I mean, hey, it yeah, that sort of feeling of having time and losing time almost never leaves you. It seems like no matter what, I can feel like the time went by slowly, or the time went by completely in a blink anymore. And so, yeah, it's all you can do is take any time with what you have and do something you love. And obviously you found your thing. You do what you love day in, day out, and you just play cards, man. Like I say, I'm just playing cards, man. That's all it is.
Play cards and help out people, right? There's a book by Bill Perkins called Die with Zero. He's a poker player, has a bunch of money from whatever business, and he talks a lot about essentially you have you have time, you have money, and you have one other thing. I forget. It's not coming to me. But usually you have no money when you're young, but you have a lot of time. Oh, and you have health. You have health and you have time. So when you're young, do things that require good health, like I don't know, rock climbing or something, right? Because you can't go rock climbing when you're 70 years old. And also do things that don't require money. And fortunately, studying anything does not require all that much money. I know you're going to college, so maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
But you can learn a lot of things on the internet today. And I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/PokerCoaching. It's free with thousands of hours of poker content. And that fundamentals course is free, right? So you really can learn a lot of things for free or close enough to free that will be lifelong skills that will help you out in life. So might as well make use of them. And whenever you learn something when you're young, there's a long time for you to use it. Whereas if you learn something when you're 70, yeah, that's good, but you may not make it all that much longer. So you're not going to have a whole lot of time to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. As we're wrapping up here with Jonathan, like we said, going back to the main event that we're doing here over the summer, obviously, again, so thankful that you partnered with us, providing prizes, being here, and of course, giving content to college players. It's right there. You don't have to go anywhere. Jonathan Little YouTube, Poker Coaching YouTube. It's right there. You can study and hit play and watch every single upload that Jonathan's ever done and get good at the game just that quickly. What are you excited about for the future of college students and young people in the game with events like this happening?
I think it's great. There was nothing like this for me whenever I was in college. A lot of people were anti-gambling back whenever I was growing up. And it was like, oh, you're a poker player. But now it's very widely accepted as like a good mind sport, essentially, kind of like chess. And I realize there may be some slight negative stigma about it because, to be fair, if you are a degenerate gambler, you probably should stay away from poker and most other things pertaining to gambling. Whereas, chess may be okay. That said, if you become a chess pro and you don't do anything else, you'll probably end up broke too. So maybe it's all the same. But what a weird tangent we went on there. I think it's great. I mean, look, there's only going to be more and more opportunities for people in general, and you're in a great spot where World College Poker cares about helping out young people get into poker and learn the skills that the game teaches, not necessarily just for playing poker, but also for life. And poker is a great life skill, even if it's just purely from like a networking / marketing point of view. It's great. It's kind of like golf, where a lot of people play golf, not because they want to be a professional golf player, but because they like the camaraderie, they like the experience, and they like meeting people and talking about the things they've learned in life and talking about business, right? Poker's kind of similar, where if you play poker with a wide range of people, you're going to meet a lot of people, interact with a lot of people, and some of those people are going to be very beneficial for you in life if you make yourself receptive to that. So, learning poker early is great. I'm make sure my kids learn poker, and I think it's a very important thing to learn. Like a lot of games are important to learn, but it turns out poker is a game that a lot of people know how to play, and it's kind of like it's a thing that a lot of people can relate to because everyone kind of knows how to play cards to some extent. So I'm glad you all have the opportunity. Make sure you take advantage of it. Tell your friends.
Absolutely. Tell even if you might be watching this and you're not a college student, but you have somebody you know, or you know somebody, you should tell them about it. Why wouldn't you tell them about a free roll that we're going to have this summer and hopefully on and beyond and beyond. Before we go, I want to give you another chance to talk about some of the things that PokerCoaching.com has going on that you're really excited about and what people can see from you.
Oh my goodness. Whatever you want.
Yeah, what can you
learn
not
how
see?
To play poker. Imagine you have a poker question right now. I have the answer to it on my training site. I made the site to be an answer to every question you could have pertaining to poker. We also have over 1,200 interactive hand quizzes where we basically walk you through hands that me or my other coaches played. We have a bunch of coaches who are better than me at poker. I try to hire people I want to learn from, and I inevitably learn from them, right? So I help them out. They help out us. They teach us how to play better, and we all get better together. So we have a bunch of quizzes. We have classes. We have private live streams. And if there's something that you don't know about poker that is also somehow not addressed on the site, send me an email and I'll make a video about it, because I want to make sure everything is answered to where it's the only resource you could possibly need. So check it out, pokercoaching.com/free or /fundamentals for the fundamental scores. And hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. I have, and I hope you do as well. I hope everybody out there checks it out. And if you need that little bit of study, no matter where you are before this main event, do it. Go there. PokerCoaching.com. Jonathan, the guru, thank you so much for joining me today, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Good luck in the games.